And we're live. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the stream. We were backstage, prepping for this, pinching our cheeks and fun stuff. Actually, Nikol wasn't. I was. I'm a nerd.
I'm just like, okay.
You're way too cool to pinch your cheeks. Me, I'm like, gonna pinch cheeks in the. No, okay. You guys don't need to know. Okay. So I am super pumped for today's live stream. And I'm super excited for my guest, but I'm going to introduce myself first for those of you who aren't quite familiar with my channel, and then I'm going to let her introduce herself because I want her to talk about what she does and why she's here. Good morning, Mr. William Case. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm writing you a message. Sort of. I'm writing you a horribly typed message, but you understood it. You're the best, Q. So anyway, so today's topic is developmental editing and specifically plot holes. And I'm Kammi. This is my channel. I do quick writing tips and workshops for people. And I'm an eclectic writer, but right now I'm working on a fantasy thriller with paranormal elements. I'm super excited for it. Anyway, you're welcome, William. So this is my guest, Nikol, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Nikol Popovics. I'm a writer and a developmental editor. I do copy editing now, but I'm mainly a freelance editor. And I don't know, I didn't prepare a big intro or anything, and now I'm regretting it because I'm like, who am I? What's my name? But basically that's it. I'm Nikol. I'm a freelance editor, and I write stuff sometimes.
Sometimes. A few things here and there.
Yeah.
You dabble. Nikol is also an author tuber, and her channel is already linked in the description for you guys, so I don't have to forget about it later, because I do that sometimes. So she's fantastic. She makes great videos. Check it out. She always entertains me. I love it.
Thank you. So, that's so nice.
Yeah. Well,
your check's in the mail.
What?
Your check's in the mail.
Oh, ooh, I like checks.
For saying all those nice things to me, remember?
Oh, yeah, that's the thing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Do I get $5 for every nice thing I say?
Yeah, $5 and $5 Nikol dollars.
Oh, crap. Distinct Author says, nice to meet you, Nikol.
Ah, hello, Distinct Author.
So let's dive in. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what a developmental editor is, for starters, because some people maybe don't know.
Yeah, so a developmental editor, I like to think of us as kind of like a beta reader on steroids. So we'll read through the manuscript, we'll make notes on character, on setting, on plot, on tone, on your style, and just to see how the whole story fits together and make sure that it's working cohesively and make sure that it tells the story that you want to tell. Because first and foremost, we are advocates for the reader. So we want the reader to have the best possible experience, reading experience that they can. So we work to kind of tighten up everything, including your plot and making sure that the setting is proper for your plot, that your characterizations make sense, that characters are doing things that make sense, that go with the plot. So, yeah.
Fantastic. So then just along that lines, let's just talk a little bit about what a plot hole is.
Yeah, there's a couple of different kinds of plot holes. So one could be like a structural plot hole where you set up something to happen in the beginning of the story, but that thing doesn't happen in the rest of the story. So you kind of promise the reader that something's going to happen, but that you never actually follow through with it. It could be you promise the reader something's going to happen, but then it goes in a completely different direction, that it's different from a twist in that you didn't set it up to happen. It just kind of came out of left field. And there's also character plot holes. So that's when the story's happening in a way that it doesn't make sense for the character to be happening too, because you haven't set up the character to make the decisions that they're making.
It's not authentic to who
right.
you initially started writing. Absolutely. Right. Dacre said, morning all. Hello, friend. I'm glad you made it. I don't know if it's early morning for you or what, but I'm glad you're here. So he's over in Australia. So he's
wow.
Yeah, he's a hop, skip, and a jump away right now. Yeah. Totally different time zone. I know. I told him if he made it today, I would consider him a diehard. So looks like he's
definitely.
Oh, it's 8 a.m. Not too bad. Good. Distinct author said, what would be the best way to avoid these, or should we be plotting? So and I know you have opinions about, you've done both plotting and pantsing, because I've seen those videos. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, plotting is a good idea if you're a plotter. If you know that you're a plotter, if you know that the story makes sense to you, if you know that you have to kind of see the map before you get on the journey, if that makes sense. If you know that you have to, if you have to know the story from beginning to end, plotting is a good idea. But not everybody's a plotter. I'm kind of somewhere in between now, but some people are definitely. Oh no! Are you okay?
Having problems, guys. Sorry. Keep going.
Okay.
Don't pay attention to the wizard behind the screen.
I'm worried about her. Oh my god. Okay. She's disappeared, so I'll just keep going. So, pantsing or discovery writing, meaning if you're a writer who just kind of has to, it's really weird to talk without her here. So
I'm right here, I'm listening.
If you're the kind of writer who has to kind of discover the story as you write it, that's totally fine. That's a totally reasonable way to write. And a lot of times you can't really avoid plot holes, even if you are a plotter. So you really have to think about, I actually have notes on this. So you have to think about the best way to avoid plot holes is really just to think about your character and your character arcs. So your characters really should be driving the story. It should be driving the plot. I'm so happy that you're okay.
I'm okay. Nothing.
You're back. Okay.
Just almost.
I was so worried.
Who needs the extra light, right?
So yeah, your character really should be driving the plot. So always look to what your character is doing, what your character is thinking and feeling, and what happened in the story that brought your character to this point in the story. How are they reacting emotionally, and how are they going to move forward? Because it should be their decision, should be what's going to happen next in the plot. I see a lot of writers, particularly plotters actually, who have a really solid plot, who have a really good story that makes logical sense, but their characters are just kind of along for the ride. They're very reactive. So their characters, even though the plot makes sense from like a technical perspective, it doesn't make sense for why their characters are doing what they're doing, because you haven't established the character arc. You haven't established what is going on with the character and why they're choosing to go from point A to point B. And same thing for pantsers. Just look to the character arc. I know a lot of times pantsers can kind of get derailed by the freedom of writing and just kind of have fun going off on a tangent or two. And that's totally fine. If that's what you need to do to get the first draft out, do it. But get back to what the plot actually is, and by remembering what exactly your character wants in the story, keep that ultimate goal in mind to kind of help you to not go off on too many tangents, so that you don't have to cut like half of your book when you're done.
That would be so painful. I'm actually right in the middle. I'm not really a plotter and I'm not really a pantser. I'm both, depending on what the project is. So when I write really, really short stories, I'm a pantser all the way. I like to just let it go, let the story tell itself. But on longer ones, there's just too many moving parts. And I like to know where I'm headed because I don't like to feel derailed,
Right, yeah.
And so just piggybacking off of something that you said, when I'm not really sure how a character would act in a scene authentically to who they are, who I created them to be, I actually watch the scene like it's a movie. I don't know. Does anybody else do this?
Yeah, I totally do.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I even close my eyes and type.
Yes.
Just so I can get immersed in it. Yeah.
I totally do that. Okay. Yep. So if I have played out a scene and it doesn't feel right, I close my eyes, I rewind, and I play it again, like 3, 4, however many times it takes, so that whatever that character is choosing feels authentic to the character. Yeah, I totally do that. I'm a nerd. What can I say?
Me too. It's okay.
Woo, room full of nerds. Okay. Now, Dicker says, how are they reacting emotionally? This is good. I've read about the story A elements, external action, and story B elements, internal response action.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how they are reacting emotionally. Sorry, I read that like a question and it was a statement. My bad. Should there be a limit on the number of characters to help with character holes? That's from William.
Ooh, yeah. I guess, different authors can pull off a lot of different character points of view. I can't. If there's more than 2, I'm like, I don't know. But definitely the least, or like the one character point of view is definitely a lot easier to control and a lot easier to kind of get a handle on. Because if you have 2 characters and 2 points of view, they each have to have their own character arcs and they have to interject in some way, and there's a lot of, it can get really messy. So definitely less point of view to avoid plot holes, the better. But again, it depends on the genre that you're writing. If you're writing high fantasy, lots of characters.
So one is not really an option. I mean, it could be, I guess, if we're talking about narcissism. But
So yeah, maybe you're not writing a 12 character cast. That's good. But yeah, especially in romance, typically there's 2 points of view. Definitely keeping that in mind and keeping those characters in mind and their kind of what their opposing views are, and keeping their characters in mind will definitely help with that. But
yeah, I think keeping their opposing views in mind will really help with the tension throughout the scene, which will help keep them honest with who they are as characters.
Yes, exactly, which will drive your plot forward. So.
Absolutely. And then I was thinking too, if I were to answer William's question, it would be go according to what you feel like your comfort zone is. So like you were saying, Nikol, it kind of depends, because more characters equals more plot arcs, equals more complexity. So I would say newer writers are going to struggle with stories that have 7 main characters, whereas they would not struggle as much with 1 main character. So I think it would go based on your experience, which, William, trust yourself more than you do, friend. You're a better writer than you think, and you'll be able to pull it off. So trust yourself and feel it out. If it feels uncomfortable, if it feels like characters aren't being authentic, then they probably aren't being authentic. So, you can use your inner critic, your inner judge to help you out.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So Dacre says that he also plots the long form and pantses the short term. Yeah. I wonder how many people do that. Yeah. I'm not
probably a lot.
I thought I might be a plotter until I saw Brandon Sanderson's videos, and then I said, no, I'm definitely not a plotter.
Definitely.
That man is a diehard. Wow, he is like.
But yet he pantses his characters, which I thought was really interesting. If you've watched any of Brandon Sanderson's lectures, I highly, highly recommend them. That his approach to character was really, really interesting.
It was, and interestingly enough, my least favorite thing about his stories are his characters.
That's interesting.
Well, you can tell that he has a degree in science because
Yes.
of his magic systems. You can tell that he's really thought this plot out, and you can tell it's really intricate. There are so many details, and you can tell his love of the language, his command of the language. But
there's
his
a bit of a learning
like,
curve. Yeah,
I'm kind of like,
a lot of it.
Sometimes
Yeah.
they get a little caricature for me.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree.
Yeah.
But
So that's
still
funny.
Amazing writer. Nothing against Brandon.
Oh, definitely. And an amazing channel, you guys.
Yes.
I think everybody on here has seen it. Distinct Author says, can you still have these issues when writing in deep point of view?
Yes, you can, because it really, you have to really think about where like where your character is emotionally, and whether you're in deep point of view or whatever literary device you're using. You really have to think about what the goal of the story is, what the goal of your character is, and if that's not meshing with where your story is actually going, then you're still going to end up with plot holes regardless.
Does
that make sense?
Yeah. Is it to me?
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe we should ask Distinct Authors to let us know if that answered her question.
Yes, please let us know.
So, yeah, I think it would be really interesting to have a discussion on deep point of view and really analyze that, because that's something that people have very strong opinions on, and people have very different opinions. It's very, very interesting because you find very conflicting information online.
Which is really, it's interesting that I didn't know that there was this, like, I didn't know it was so controversial.
I have stumbled into a few controversies just by putting out videos. It's been very, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, my last one was about Scrivener, and I didn't know people felt so passionately about Scrivener, but I have almost more dislikes than I have likes, and I'm like, really? All I said was I didn't like the program. Wow.
Oh, so people are hating on you for not liking Scrivener?
Yes. Very interesting. I know.
That is interesting.
Well, writers are passionate folks, so.
It's true. We feel lots of emotions. So.
Yeah. And Distinct Author says yes. Yes and no, LOL. I think the answer was good, but I'd love to get more detailed.
Okay. So, point of view aside, you have to think about what your character is doing and why. So really think about, what is your character's goal? What does the character want? That is what the story is about. And sorry, I got distracted. So what does the character want? That is what the story is about. What are kind of the stakes? Why do they want to achieve this goal? What are the stakes if they don't achieve this goal? That is really where kind of the heart of the plot lies. And if you have that straight in your head, that's going to be a lot more helpful to avoiding plot holes, regardless of whether you're in deep point of view or whatever point of view you choose. Because really, those are just like devices. Those are just tools to tell the story. The heart of the story lies in the character and what the character wants and where they're going and how they're going about doing things and cause and consequences. So point of view, it doesn't really matter. Like, you know what I mean? Does that help?
I know exactly what you mean, because I started looking a lot into deep point of view when I switched my novel to a thriller. Because a lot of thrillers are written, well, they're written in first person present tense, or they're written in deep point of view. And I was like, shoot, I'm writing in third person past tense. This doesn't work. And so I started really looking into deep point of view and thinking that it was really the only way to tell my story. And I had a friend tell me, you know what? I think you're overanalyzing this a little bit. I think you need to tell the story that you need to tell in the way that the story needs to be told. So it's kind of like the story, just like how each song has its own rhythm and its own beat. Each story has its own rhythm and beat, and you can force it into a mold. But if you if you just understand the story and not necessarily let it run, but let it sort of inform how you write it. Let it sort of make those big picture decisions. Then the story will come across. Like you were saying, the character motivation is king here. I know in parts of my story where the character's motivations aren't very clear, it kind of reads as more bland, and it doesn't really matter how I wrote it. But the points where the character's motivation are very clear, and my main character is a she, where she is making lots of choices, that's when the tension ratchets up, and that's when she sort of comes alive, and it's very, very interesting to see that dynamic that you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the kinds of the tension and that drama in the scene are what's going to drive it forward. That's what's going to drive your character to make the decisions. Because really all a plot is a character making decisions. So if you're thinking about, like, I like to use the Blake Snyder Save the Cat beat sheet. I don't know if anybody else is a fan, but I like using that when I semi-plot. The catalyst of the story is when you're kind of moving into Act 2. Yes. So the big thing that happens that pushes the character into making a decision that pushes the character for the story to happen. The character really has to be reacting to that and making a decision based on what happened. And then that decision has a consequence. And then that causes the character to feel one way, and which causes another decision and another and another. That's all a plot really is. A plot is really just characters doing stuff. So that's why I always emphasize that characters and their motivation and what they're doing is going to help prevent plot holes most of the time. Not all the time, but plot holes can happen when, if you have a magic system that doesn't make sense. Like if you have a elemental magic system and this one character can only do water magic, and then all of a sudden halfway through the book they pull out their fire magic that nobody knew was going on. That's kind of a plot hole, but those are easy fixes. So yeah.
This is awesome. I am loving this conversation, and I'm loving your responses, and I'm loving the questions that are coming in.
Yes, excellent questions for sure.
Dacre said, Bahaha, compared to Brandon Sanderson, do any of us even write? No. We're all infants here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then Distinct Authors said, so it would be more of a GMC of the character and plot interact? Am I reading that correctly? I am. I'm reading that correctly, but I don't understand it.
What is GMC? Can you maybe...
Yeah, clarify that for us, would
you? Please.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. But we can keep chatting. Yeah, this is really interesting. I like to talk to people about characters first, and so it's kind of fun to hear you say characters are sort of like king of all of this.
I'm a huge fan of characters, and even when you have a really plot-driven genre like the classic James Patterson kind of thrillers, where it's all about the plot and what's going on and how they're going to save the world. Even then, I think characters are more important, because if you don't understand why somebody's doing something, then you're just kind of left what? This doesn't make sense. I don't really understand, Then
you're not really along for the ride.
Exactly.
Like the writer wants it to be. Absolutely.
I think that the point of novels really is to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, to be a completely different person and experience a completely different world and a different life. So we really only relate to that through character and through emotions, because that's what we know as people. There's a really good book I highly recommend called Wired for Story by Lisa Cron. It goes through the psychology of story and why some stories are better than others. Highly recommend it if you're really interested in.
Sounds really, really cool. Yeah, okay. I'm going to try and remember that. And I don't have my paper and pencil that I was going to have by my desk. Okay.
I don't have the book with me, unfortunately, in my office.
I'm going to write that down. Hold on.
And she's gone again. Okay.
I know, because I like stressing you out.
Okay.
I'm done stressing you out. Look, I've got my handy dandy marker, and we're good. Wired. Wired, what is it?
Wired for story.
Wired for story. Okay, awesome.
And it's by Lisa Cron.
Okay.
C-R-O-N.
You knew I was going to struggle. Thanks for having my back. Appreciate it.
Of course, anytime.
So Distinct Author says that GMAC stands for goals, motivations, and conflict.
Yes.
And she says also, and how they interact, how they influence the story.
Yes. That's basically what plot is. Your character's goals, what are their motivations, the conflict and the stakes at hand if they don't reach their goal. That's what your plot is, basically. And other characters and how they're going to influence your main character.
Yeah, I think that certain writing styles, like Deep Point of View, can increase tension.
Absolutely.
But I think what you're saying, what you're hitting on here, is that character motivations will increase it faster and more efficiently than really anything else.
Yes.
Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Oh, Dacre, thank you so much for typing that in the chat.
Yay.
Right back. Okay. I'll write it here. You're awesome. Okay. So when I read, okay. Ooh, getting my camera. Okay. So when I read Sarah J Maas's, what was it? It wasn't A Court of Thorn and Roses. It was the other series, the
Throne of
Glass.
Mm-hmm.
Throne of Glass series. The very first book had something that still bugs me if we're talking about plot holes. In the very beginning, the main character is walking through the forest, and this is not a spoiler or anything, you guys, if you haven't read the book, but she's walking through the forest, and there's these little creatures, and I want to call them brownies, but I don't know what they actually are, but I think they were meant to be like brownies. And they go and they bring her flowers, and it's their way of acknowledging who she is. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. This is going to come to play later in the story. And so in my mind, I kept the memory of these little brownie creatures because I was pretty sure they were super duper important because they all brought her flowers, and then nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They never came up again.
Yeah, that's so common. Oh, I hate that.
It bugged me so bad. And I loved the series. I really, really loved the series, but that bugged me so bad. I was like 5 books in, and I'm like, where are the brownies?
Yeah.
Come on,
yeah.
give me the brownies.
Yeah, I couldn't get into that series for some reason, and I have to go back and reread them because it's been ages. But I just remember just not being able to get into it, and maybe that's why. Maybe there's just some plot holes that.
I really feel like she did a very good job with plot holes for the most part, because she had a lot of talk about having multiple character arcs and multiple things happening. I mean, she interweaved so much that I think.
And maybe she just forgot about it.
I don't know. I wonder if she was like, no, it was just meant to show you that the wild things recognize her as the queen. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it wasn't meant to be as big as I had worked it up to be. But my point in bringing it up is because it was a form of foreshadowing. And so when we have scenes where things happen and we introduce new characters and something quirky or interesting happens, that sort of sticks out in people's minds. And that can end up being a form of a plot hole later if that doesn't get reworked in, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to touch on that too. And I saw a question previously about pantsers and how they can avoid this. They can avoid this by going back and picking up those little loose threads and seeing how, does this story or does this scene serve the overall story? Is it important for my character to be doing this scene right now? Is it driving the overall story forward? Because if it's not, if it's just like a fun little interaction that doesn't really have anything to do with anything, you can definitely cut that. So yeah, in your revision, when you're going back to reread it, and I recommend that you do, because you would be surprised how many first drafts I get. Lord. So, yeah. So in your next, when you're rereading, pick out those loose little threads and see if you can weave them back in. If it's a good scene, if it's a scene that you like, see if you can expand on that later on in the story. But yeah, keeping those things in mind and keeping your characters' motivations in mind and their ultimate goal, though.
Yeah, I had a friend, an author tuber, Brandon McNulty, and he said that sometimes, I don't know if sometimes or always, I'm going to throw out sometimes, but he edits and he color codes his editing. So instead of just editing straight across the whole book, he edits by theme. I thought that was very, very interesting because then he's only focused on one thing. And I think that's an easier, faster way to catch plot holes if you are specifically looking at the love interest now and how that goes throughout the book, or you're specifically looking at, okay, so this one motivation, this fallout of this, whatever, then you're more likely to catch it. Whereas if you're reading it straight through the whole thing, you're thinking about 100 different things. So it's just a way to really focus your brain down to one specific thing. So just to throw that out there, I thought that was pretty clever approach.
That is a really good idea. I never thought about color coding things like that, because I definitely do a couple of passes when I do edit, but I never thought about color coding them. That may be
he's got a video on it.
Ooh,
and it was his video where he's talking about what is this, a book or something that talks about editing from the middle. Is this book, right?
There is a book called Writing from the Middle, or Write from the Middle.
I think it's editing from the middle. Either way, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I don't know. But it was his response to this, and then he talked about how he color codes things and he goes by theme. So it's in that video.
It sounds very organized, which I'm not always. So this might change my life, or it might just make me come
destroy you.
We'll see. I'm willing to give it a shot, though.
Spoiler alert for my other video. This is one of the reasons I didn't like Scrivener. I am not organized enough. It is like those stupid clapper trappers. Have you seen those things? They're those folders that zip, and they have a bajillion packets for every tiny. That's what Scrivener is for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's too many places for too many things. But so I'm right with you on that one. Definitely.
I definitely, honestly, like I actually write on an AlphaSmart because Scrivener is a lot. And I totally get that. When I first got it, I'm like, why is everybody raving about this? I don't understand. But once I found like just the blank template and I just use those and I just write scene by scene by scene, it's a lot more manageable. It does so much that I never use it for because it's a lot. So I write it in AlphaSmart and then I just dump it into a different scene in Scrivener because then I can edit short things at a time. I don't get overwhelmed.
I think it's probably for super organized people then. I don't know. You guys let me know if you use it and you like it, because I didn't realize it was going to be a controversial subject. It's pretty funny to me, actually.
I don't know either. Wow.
I don't know.
I'll have to get involved in some of the drama.
Dave says, with a BOB bug out bag, one needs a lot of pockets for a lot of stuff. Oh, Dave, always with the charm. I love it. I feel for Kammi so much. Scrivener destroying all her work. Yeah.
Oh.
So Scrivener actually crashed my hard drive.
No.
Yeah, it actually crashed my hard drive. So it was, yeah, it's like writerly PTSD hugs. That
yeah,
yeah, pretty much. I keep getting tempted to check out their new update for Windows just to see if they've done anything with it, because they haven't mentioned it in anything. They've like, oh, we've upgraded this and we've done this, and there's absolutely nothing about the hundreds of people who've had their manuscripts eaten alive. It's like socks in the dryer that were just gone. So, yeah, there's absolutely no mention of it. So it's usually when you get an update, it's like we've fixed this bug or we've tweaked it. Nothing. So I'm I'm really curious to see if they've actually done anything.
That is.
Dave is pretty sure it did not crash my hard drive. So I'll let him call my computer company and fight with them, because I'm not a computer person. That's just what my computer company told me. So there's my little flag.
Love it.
Okay, so have we beat this horse to death, or are there other types of plot holes that we need to look out for? So we talked about foreshadowing. We talked about character plot holes. We talked about when the story stalls because of the character plot holes. What else?
I don't know. Are there any questions?
Yeah. So why don't we hold on? Actually, okay. They're arguing about the computer company. This is super funny.
Yes, I love it.
Okay, question, Dacre. Plot holes that highlight character arc didn't complete.
Like if the character arc isn't complete? Or...
Yeah, I think that's what he means. So if you give a foreshadowing or a highlight that something is going to happen within the character arc rather than within the story, and that doesn't fully tie together.
Okay. In what way? Can I get an example? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay. So there is definitely always a delay when we're doing these. So I'm going to run with it because I think I understand what he's saying. Okay. So it's kind of like the brownies in Sarah J Maas's story, except within the character arc. So I am thinking along the lines of the Avengers, where there was foreshadowing that there would be a relationship between, Baker's saying example to follow, a relationship between Hawkeye and Black Widow. And I've actually had other authors, I've read their blogs talking about how when there was a new director that came in, he took a totally new direction with that. And all of a sudden, Hawkeye had this family that was hidden, and their relationship was completely platonic, even though there was all of this foreshadowing. I mean, they kept little tokens of their friendship. I mean, there were all these little hints that their friendship was more than a friendship, and then it was like a dead stop to that. So that's my understanding of it. But he said, he said, sample, nope. Okay. Anyway, let's just.
Okay. I was going to say that example is actually a really interesting one, because you can definitely read into that, because you're right. In the first one, there were like those little hints like, oh yeah, there's something going on. And then when you find out he has a family, it's kind of like, oh, was he being a two-timer there? Or, you know, like, so maybe that's kind of what they were intending to, but then it just never happened. Or maybe like it just went in a completely different direction because they didn't want to play out that relationship, which, I mean, I guess it's different when you're writing a Hollywood blockbuster, because you have a lot of different moving parts, different directors, producers, actors. So
I'm like 90% sure it was a new director.
Yeah.
There was a switch between the movies.
Yeah. And in that case, it's kind of like, okay, that's the hole there, but like they should probably figure that out before you kind of take it further. But I'm not a Hollywood screenwriter or anything.
Right.
I get very mad at movies and movie franchises when stuff like that happens. But yeah, you know, if you're writing a book or a series, if you're foreshadowing for something to happen and that thing doesn't happen, either explain why, please, or just don't, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, oh my gosh, embarrassing, talked about how she hadn't decided until the very end of the Harry Potter series that Harry and Ginny would get together. And
yeah,
so,
plot holes.
Yeah, so talk about plot holes. This is kind of, I think, what we're talking about. Just thinking about the traditional character arc of a main character, where you highlight their flaws, weaknesses early on, and by the end of their story, you realize they haven't actually overcome that.
Write a sequel so that they overcome it. Yes.
Yeah, and so it says one of two, so there's another one. Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
As a reader, realizing that there is a lack of growth / overcoming internal flaws / becoming better, etc. I have to say this is kind of a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah,
I don't know how you. Okay, good. This is a super pet peeve of mine. I think it happens a lot when it comes to things relating to psychology. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times people just don't understand basic psychology, and that's where the plot holes start coming in. Yeah. So it bothers me when there is an anti-hero and they have just wreaked havoc on lives and really kind of destroyed people, and then they come back after having won the battle or saved the world, and all of a sudden all is forgiven, or all of a sudden they're immediately a better person, all of their flaws are gone. And it doesn't work that way. The scars still exist, even if you want to forgive that person. There are things that have to be worked through. Even if you want to change, you have to actually do the work of changing, and so the reader has to see that progression. So that's a personal,
which is the whole point of the plot. I would argue. And Lisa Cron talks about this in her book as well. Really, your character's misbelief, like what is it that they believe about the world? It's kind of like a lie that they're being told. That is what's driving them. That is what's driving the mistakes that they're making and the decisions that they're making. But all of these external events are so that your character can change internally. So when they don't, it's like, what is the point of that whole story? Because really, that's why we tell each other stories. That's why we have fables and fairy tales. They're tools for us to learn a lesson. And if the character doesn't learn a lesson, then why did I just read that story?
So in every event that happens in that character's life, there should be a subtle shift towards where they need to go in the end, rather than they're still the same, stuff like that.
When you're writing, when you're thinking about your external plot, think about, how is this going to change my character? How are they going to react to it? And then what are the conclusions that they're going to make? And how is that going to shift that their being very subtly? Because it's not just one giant big change, like you were saying. Just because somebody did all these bad things and now they want to be a good guy, it's like, it doesn't work like that. There's going to be trust issues from the other characters. Are they really changing, or do they have some nefarious motives? Like, you really have to show how they're changing and why.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this was super fun. Okay, so I have been trying to figure out how to do some writing time with this. I do want to do a writing prompt, and I want to leave time for you guys to ask questions too. So be thinking about whatever your questions are now. You can ask them now, or you can ask them after we do the writing prompt, but there's a delay between the video and the feedback we get through your comments. So if you think about it now, then you'll be able to ask and have your question answered. So I have these story cubes. For those of you who haven't seen them, I think everybody here probably has. And we have to come up with sort of a problem to be overcome, or something, and I usually have a setting and a time, or a character, a setting and a time. So one time it was a farmer, and there was paranormal elements and the end of the world.
Oh my
And
God,
so
that sounds awesome.
yes, it was awesome. I was like picturing this farmer on their tractor and all this stuff. I think there was something about a car, but anyway, so you guys let me know what time you want to include on our prompt. You can be as specific or general as you want. So it could be 7 a.m. It could be yesterday. It could. Yesterday's a favorite of mine. I don't know why. It's super funny. I'm going to put it on here because I said it. Okay. What other time of days do we have? Or times? Hey, thank you, Dacre. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it, and hope that this was valuable. Those of you who are here, if you thought that this was valuable, please share it with your friends. I'd really love for these workshops to grow and everybody to have an opportunity to see them. And William says 1980s. That's
love
awesome.
it.
I love it. I'm picturing the lace and the hair and the jeans.
And the neon.
Yes, and the glasses.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, Nikol, what's time?
What's time? Oh no, I'm on the spot. I don't do well when I'm on the spot. Let's say 1800s.
Thank you, Dacre. 1800s?
Yeah.
Awesome. I hope this one has paranormal elements because that'll be fun in the 1800s or the 1980s. Jeez.
Either way,
okay. I'm gonna do. I like saying meal times, so I'm gonna do breakfast. And I think that's probably enough for this one. Okay, so we've got time and we need to have location. So setting. In an elevator. Let's do elevator. What do you think? Hey, those of you who are there on the chats, let me know. What is a location we can use? Nikol, you got one?
Bedroom.
Bedroom is good. What about on a hike? What kind of hike? On a hike in the Alps. The Alps, okay?
I like it.
Okay. Dave, you're hilarious. Okay, so just to honor Dave and his one-track mind, I am going to say the IT store.
Nice.
Okay, so we have time and location, and what else do we need? Either a problem or something. Give me a something. All cars should run on regular gas. They should run on gas, usually. I don't know what that means, though. Getting lost.
Oh, I like regular as opposed to like premium gas?
I don't know. Oh, are you talking about for the prompt? All cars should. It's okay. I'm slow, but I catch up eventually. William, can you come up with a problem that a character would have to solve? In one of our workshops, they had to get to the attic, and in another one, what was it? They were trying to. What was it? They were trying to hide something from somebody. So I'm going to say they have to keep the secret. Which had non-med gas. Okay. Dave, help us with the prompt, friend. Okay, so Nicole, what would be a problem? Maybe apocalypse.
The
I've done
apocalypse.
that one before, but
That's always a good one. How about something like somebody, grandma's ashes are missing.
what's that? Sorry?
Grandma's
The
ashes are
missing?
missing from
Wow.
the fireplace.
Ashes missing. That is not a good pastime, I'm sure. Okay. Ask a specific question. They have to find their way to a resort without getting killed. Ooh.
That's a good one.
Avoid murder. Okay. Avoid murder and get to resort. That's a good one. I love it. Okay. Distinct authors. So how would one develop subplots and she's got a question going here. Okay.
Okay.
Should we take a break and answer her question, or should we keep going with the prompt and answer it after writing time?
It's up to you guys. I'm good with either.
Let's answer it, and then we'll go ahead with the prompt.
Yeah.
Okay. So how would one develop the subplots and linear and nonlinear plots if the plot characters, if the plot is characters doing things?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, forgot to hit enter. Oh,
that's a really good question. I've had trouble with subplots forever. So subplots still relate to the character. They are showing another side of the character. A really good example is like Cozy Mysteries, where you have like the sleuth, the amateur sleuth, is trying to solve the murder or the mystery or whatever happened, and then maybe they own a bakery or a knitting club. Knitting's my favorite. I love those cozy knittings.
I love that about you.
I'm a huge nerd. So it's the subplot is to show another aspect of the character, and usually the subplot runs parallel to the main plot, and then the subplot ties it together in the end. Somehow the subplot helps to kind of solve the main problem. So maybe they find out that the weapon was a knitting needle, or they got strangled with it. This is getting really dark, I'm sorry. But maybe the murder weapon had something to do with knitting, and the sleuth realizes like, hey, I know this. I know exactly who the killer is because this person was in my shop looking for this exact needle, and I know who I sold it to. So they show a different aspect of the character, usually to kind of slow down the action of the main plot, but they always have to run together and they always have to make sense with the main plot.
I totally understand what you're saying, and I'll let distinct authors answer if she feels like answer her question. But I have one of my partly outlined stories is partially a romance, and the two of the main characters, they're trying to solve this crime that happened, and they're not able to solve it without the subplot, and the subplot is their romance. Their romance has to exist because they have to change in order to see things a new way in order to solve the crime. They wouldn't be able to do it simply on their own.
Right.
So Agatha Christie, and then there were none.
That's so weird. I have it on my desk right now.
Oh my gosh!
How did you know?
That is super funny.
That's so weird.
Okay, so distinct authors, let us know if you feel like that answered your question. But for now, we're going to go ahead with the writing prompt so that we are still moving forward. Okay, so I throw these handy dandy cubes, and whatever they land on, we are obligated to do. Ready?
Okay.
Oh, wait, I didn't throw that good enough. I'm throwing this way. I'm going to disappear. Oh, this one's going to be fun. we have an apocalypse
Nice.
in the 1980s in our bedroom.
Love it.
I'm loving this. Okay, this is going to be very, very interesting, you guys. Okay, so get out whatever you have to write on. Either you can work on your computer, pencil, paper, whatever works for you. And I'm currently setting a timer right now. We'll get 5 minutes on the clock. And then just see what we can come up with. So, Nikol, what do you think about this? Would you, if this were you, would you be outlining this story? Would you be pantsing this story? How would you feel comfortable? Because this is a very quirky story, and the story itself almost seems like a character, like the
city. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I usually approach things a little bit kind of weird, and I'm going to be doing a video on this, I think. So I usually do like a mind map. So like I put things into bubbles, and then I try to kind of like come up with different kind of characters or ideas and see how they connect and see how they could possibly relate. And then I kind of jot down the story. I don't know, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like a soup bowl of way of thinking about story.
That actually makes total sense. I just am editing a video right now about mind mapping to help you prepare for writing. So we are right in line with each other there. Dave says that he's ready. Good. Please clarify the prompt. Okay, so all that we know about the prompt so far is that it's in the 1980s, that the apocalypse is happening, and that you are currently in your bedroom. So you have to decide how you're going to spend the next 5 minutes, not 5 minutes in the story, but 5 minutes writing the story. Whether you feel comfortable and you just want to pants it and write a couple hundred words or whatever you can get out, or if you would like to outline and say, okay, how would I tweak this to fit in plot holes or to avoid plot holes, and do your best, whether you're writing or plotting, to think about how things would weave together by the end of the story, so that you're creating this idea of a complete arc with the story and with the character, even if you only get 200 words or 100 words or 5 words or whatever, but just come up with this idea. Is that kind of what you're thinking, Nikol?
Mm-hmm. That's how I kind of approach writing in general. Like the story doesn't really kind of manifest until much later for me usually. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I am going to do a hybrid of that. So you guys do whatever you want, whatever you feel comfortable with. And I have 5 minutes on my clock, and it is starting right now. Thank you, Dave, for adding that to the chat. Okay, you guys ready? All right. Got my timer going. Okay. All right. So how do you guys feel about that? Do you feel good about what you got or comfortable? What do you think, Nicole? How do you feel? Okay.
So I don't do well with very short. Oops, sorry.
You're good.
Yeah, I came up with an inciting incident. I pretty much I started a mind map. I don't know if you can see this. So I just kind of I kind of tried to connect them somehow. So I came up with a catalyst for a story, and I'm not sure if that's what I was supposed to do. I don't know.
That's great. Any
Okay.
writing is celebrated here, really, because all these workshops are about is giving you an opportunity, giving everybody an opportunity, especially myself. I benefit from these, an opportunity to practice with a specific goal in mind, so that we can then level up skills in those areas. So that's kind of all it is, whatever you make.
And writing prompts are so good for that. I definitely don't do enough of them. It's a skill that I need to do a lot more for sure. But I did come up with a premise, if you want to hear it.
Yes, I absolutely do. And William and Dave, I'd love for you guys to share if you feel comfortable and want to. You can just plop them in the chats, and in the chat, the live chat, and then we'll chat about the chat. Too many chats. Yes, I do want to hear yours, Nicole. Go ahead.
Okay, so two teenagers survived the apocalypse in the 1980s when a faulty computer program causes all the bombs to go off all at once. So and they are in the bedroom making out.
Subplot.
Yeah, subplot.
That's awesome. Dave said he's really excited about whatever he has going, so I'm excited to see it. I don't know if it's an outline or what, but he said he might go ahead and write this one. So I am going to share mine, if you don't mind, and I would love feedback. I think I kind of I didn't switch tense per se. I did something weird because I started it and I was like, nah, and I went back and added something on the beginning. So it's a little bit different. So you'll see. Okay. So I stare out the window. I stare out the window of my 4th floor apartment, frozen in place as streaks of fire something. I don't know if they're asteroids or not. I didn't want to placeholder. I didn't want to worry about it. Of fire something stream past my view. All I could think about was, is this it? A lame existence and then nothing? Every day I looked out my window at the same boring scene, the same apartments that were cooler than mine, the same people that were cooler than me, and their expensive shoes and teardrop bangs. Do you remember those super cool bangs that they had? Same smog-filled sunrise every day. I wish I had money for for tapered jeans and hoop earrings, but I never did, and now I never would. Okay, so you can see that I kind of changed it. But what I was going for in this scene was obviously a whiny teenager. And I was going for somebody who just didn't appreciate who they were or what they had been given, who saw everything in life as drab. And I was going for the character arc where by the end of the story, because I talked about earrings, so I have to call it, well, no, I don't have to, but it's the 1980s, so could be drag. I don't know. Teenager? I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to go with she on this. Too complicated. Anyway, so she, by the end, learns to appreciate what she has because so many people have had so much taken away from them. And I don't really have a subplot yet. I think this would have to be a flash fiction piece, super short. And what do you think? Tell me.
I love it. I love that you pulled us into the time right away. I could totally get just those tiny little details are Oh yeah, I knew exactly like what the year it was, and that's really difficult. A lot of people, the dreaded info dumps are common, and yeah, they don't understand. Like you just gotta just those small little details that give people clues. Like yeah, I love it. I was into it right away, and I could hear the voice. I don't know.
Oh,
I like
good.
it. You should write this and send it to me because I'm really interested in reading it.
I have, yeah, I have to finish all of these because the prompts are super weird on these workshops, but then I always end up liking what comes of them.
Yeah.
So this was quirky and it was different and fun, and I might just have to write it. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I really liked her character. I liked her sort of almost like deadpan. You know what deadpan is? Almost deadpan, but annoyed by everything at the same
Yeah.
time.
Like, oh, the
Ungrateful.
apocalypse. Seriously.
Really? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did have fun with that. So, yeah, there's not enough time in 5 minutes to really do a clear character arc, but hopefully I made a clear character
Yeah.
and clear flaws so that I could then transition them into, yeah. And maybe she saves her cat. I don't know. Maybe she's like, maybe the subplot is she really loves her dang cat. I don't know. Something about the cat is coming to me. So William says, mine takes place after a nuclear war. I love that all three of us went a completely different direction with this. A character in shock after being underground for an amount of time that they're unsure about. They don't even know how long. Ooh, that's cool.
I like that.
You absolutely have to write this and then send it to us. I want to read this.
I'm into that. Yeah.
Definitely. This reminds me of a Brendan Fraser movie. What was that movie? He grew up in the. You know what I'm talking?
Is that the one where he's like a caveman?
No, he grew up in a storm shelter.
Oh,
because
yes.
his parents were pretty
Of
sure it was going to
course.
be a nuclear apocalypse.
Right.
And then he comes out, and they all are like, "Are you guys aliens?" Because they come out in this like adult shop or something. There's corn and there's pot and there's all kinds of interesting things that they're like, ah!
I can't remember what that's called, but I know exactly that movie.
Yes, that's what it reminds me of, William. I love it.
So good.
Dave says he can't place his story. That's okay. If you feel like sharing it in the Flash Fiction group, I'd love to read it. Just tag me in it because that would be super cool. Biodome, is that what it is, William? No, because Biodome is the one where they get locked in the biodome. Yeah, that's different. This is, they had a storm cellar in their yard of their house, and they go underground. And when the storm cellar unlocks, and they actually go above ground, their yard has been sold, and there's like a shop above it, and they open, and they're in this shop. Anyway.
I'm Googling it. I have to.
Yes, that was a good movie, but that's what it reminds me of. It was a really fun movie. A lot of fun, quirky details in that movie.
It says Blast from the Past.
I don't know.
Does that sound right?
That's possible.
Blast from the Past.
Dave says he's been to the biodome in Arizona. I have not. That sounds fun. That sounds really nice, being at the biodome. Anyway, so are there any last minute questions or thoughts you guys have about plot arcs? And I just keep coming back to my character in my story. I really feel like there would have to be a big shift for her to be able to appreciate what she has. I think she would have to keep her deadpan because that's the essence of who she is, and it makes her funny and unique. But I would have to give her like these things to overcome. Like maybe she is responsible for saving the world, and she's like, "Ugh, really?" And now I have to save the cat and the neighbors. What is this?
I love that it takes the apocalypse for her to change.
Yeah,
like, the entire apocalypse. Like she's just so resistant. I love that.
Because she does not have those jeans or the hoop earrings, the tapered jeans.
Love it.
Anyway, this was super fun. I'm so glad that you came, and I hope that you
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Yeah, it was awesome. I hope you guys found value in this, and I am so grateful that Nikol gave her awesome wisdom to us and spent her time with us, because time is money for a lot of people, and this was just really fantastic. Thank you.
I hope it helps. Yay.
Yes, and please don't forget to like the video and share it so that other people can see it and join. And William said it's been fun. Thank you, William. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everybody else who's joined us. You guys are awesome, and much love to you, friends, and we'll see you in the next video, the next thing. Make yourself comfortable, sleep well. Oh, Dave's coming at us with all the movies.
Oh, good.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't even know which one it is. I'll let y'all know. I'll try and add it to the chat later or something. But you guys are awesome. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.